Hey everybody, it's Kneecap here, and in this video we're going to be going over what the best items to get with your cartel chips slash dinars, whatever you want to call them, for Retribution Paladins when these cartel chips come out this coming reset. So let's go ahead and kind of go through each thing. There's not a one size fits all because you might already have something. Also, I got to point out, cartel chips are a big disappointment compared to where the community thought they were going to be. So these are for a lot less people, frankly. You can get either a mythic item if you do the mythic boss, or heroic item if you do the heroic boss, or you can get mythic plus trinkets if you do plus 12s. So that's where we are on this. And so this is for a much smaller group of people. I understand that, but I figured I'd go over it anyways, just to let anybody know. While also realizing that if you're doing maybe a bit harder content, you might already know what to target, but we can kind of go over it anyways. So for the raid, so let's do the dungeon first. So if you are targeting something from the dungeon and it's only trinkets available, pretty much the only trinket worth targeting that's like a must-have is a myth track pacemaker. This drops from Floodgate. This is a very good trinket. It's good for raid. It's good for mythic plus. It's really good for mythic plus. And this would be the one thing that you would really want to target. Other than that, this is obviously an equip and not on use. Other than that, you'd want to have an on use trinket. So even Signa the Priory, something like that, that might not be perfect for Ret Paladins. Having another on use trinket would be really good to pair with this. If your only option is like, hey, I did plus 12s, all I have to choose from are these trinkets. What should I get? Myth track, pacemaker, 100% in that case, and then also a maybe a Signa the Priory, another on use thing that's going to give you stats to kind of pair with your cooldowns, and that'll help just in general with your mythic plus DPS. When it comes to the raid items, now of course, even if you're a raider, you could try to get the pacemaker. It's still very, very good, and you could pair it with maybe like House of Cards from the raid or something, right? So pacemaker would still be good to target for raid if you don't have one as well. So it's not a must-have, but it's still really, really good for raid as well. When it comes to the raid, whether it's heroic or mythic, and we can kind of talk about the differences between these. The number one item, first of all, these are cartel chips, so these are kind of like, they're meant to be bad luck protection. So you kind of want to target things that are very rare if possible, that very rare drop chance. So the Jaster's Diamond is going to be the number one choice pretty much for everybody. Now, if you already have a Jaster's Diamond, then it might not be, right? Now, I do not, if you ever plan on killing Mythic Gallywix, I don't suggest that you just buy a heroic one just because it's an upgrade. However, if you are pretty sure you're not going to kill a Mythic Gallywix, you could even buy a heroic Jaster's Diamond, and that'll be, one of the best things you could wear still. So if you're not clearing that far into the raid, the heroic Jaster's Diamond will still be very good for you. Now, if you don't do Mythic at all, and you're like, well, yeah, heroic Jaster's Diamond's great. Well, then, of course, grab that. But the Jaster's Diamond is most likely going to have the most impact for the most people, and this should kind of be your number one targeted item. However, like if you're my guild, we're not going to have Mythic Gallywix killed yet, so it can't be my first thing that I get. So I'll just wait later on and get one, in a month or two or whatever when we have Mythic Galley down. But, if you already have Mythic Galley down, this is definitely the thing you want to target first. The second thing you would want to target is another very rare piece of loot, and it's a mythic best in slots. So this is actually very comparable with Jaster's Diamond. However, it's a little bit different when it comes to the heroic versus mythic on this one. A heroic best in slots is better than every heroic weapon, but it's not better than a myth track weapon. So if you have any weapon on myth track, it's actually better than the heroic best in slots. Pretty much. There might be some very scant cases where that's not the case, but generally speaking, any myth track weapon is going to be better than heroic best in slots. So I don't recommend, again, if you ever plan on killing one-arm bandit on mythic, then I don't recommend you buying the heroic version of this. If you never plan on killing mythic one-arm bandit, and you also do not have access to a myth track weapon, which technically anybody does, because you can get gilded crest from delves and then craft a 675 weapon, which is very close to top end myth track. So technically everyone has somewhat access to it, but so I don't recommend using that. So best in slash would be the next choice if you can get a mythic one, right? However, of course, if you're just watching this and you maybe you're just new, or maybe you're just getting into stuff like this endgame content, you're only doing normal raids, you only do, you know, low delves like +8s or something is like your max, right? Then in that case, heroic best in slots could be very, very good for you, and it'll be better than any of the heroic track weapons that you'll have. So that's that. And then for third choice, I would say a mythic house of cards. Trinkets are a little bit more balanced, just a little bit. Specifically for raid, house of cards is really good. It can be very good in it can be decent in Mythic Plus, but it's very good in raid. But House of Cards is very good, and you can definitely look to get that with like your third one. But again, it's one of those things, and this is a little bit different than the best in slots. It's more close to the Jaster Diamond case, where Mythic House of Cards is really, really good. If you're going to kill one-arm bandit on Mythic, House of Cards is something you're going to want to target. If you can only kill on Heroic or only have it killed on Heroic, it's still really good. So I'm wearing a Heroic House of Cards myself. It's very good. As of right now, until I can get Mythic House of Cards or something like that, I can't even really replace, you know, the trinkets that I have. So it's still really good. So if you will never kill Mythic One-Arm Bandit, but you can kill Heroic One-Arm Bandit, or I think you have to kill Heroic to get it. Maybe it's just normal. It might be normal. They might have switched that. I'd have to look at the blue post to see how they switched it. But you do have access to the Heroic version, let's just say that, right? If you have access to the Heroic version, this might be something worth getting as well. So for certain people, the Jaster's Diamond and the House of Cards might be worth using your Cartel chip to get the Heroic track version of it, because they are so good and the other options in the slots are not as valuable, right? And so that would be the case to get that. Now, Eye of Kazan. This is a very good trinket, right? So here's where we'll talk about the Eye of Kazan and why you might want to target this. If you're going to kill Mythic Gallywix at any point, if you already have one of these other items, first of all, that'd be the first thing to maybe start thinking about this. If you already have some of these other items that we're talked about, the reality is, so by the time my guild kills it, like I said, right, the times of the fights are going to get shorter and shorter as we get more and more gear, more and more nerfs happen, things like that, right? So Eye of Kazan loses value as a patch goes on. But here's the thing. This is the case where, what should I use this on? Let's say you're lucky. You already have your Mythic Best in slots. You already have a Mythic House of Cards. Maybe you don't have your Jasters yet, so you're going to save for that or use that. But then you're like, what am I supposed to use these other two on? Eye of Kazan, the best case for this is actually for next patch. This is going to be very strong at the beginning of next patch, right? So it's going to be hard to replace when the fight lengths are longer. So when you start off the patch, all the fight lengths take a little bit longer. This gains a lot of power once you go over that 5-minute mark. And so that would be the best way to explain to maybe use Eye of Kazan. Also, though, another way to frame this would be if you are a dual player, you're doing high-end Mythic Plus, you're doing high-end raids. If you can get Eye of Kazan and your group for Mythic Plus always stays in combat and everything like that, like purposely doesn't drop combat to keep your Eye of Kazan rolling, that makes Eye of Kazan extremely strong as well. You know, you see people doing that in like the MDI and whatnot. That can be a very powerful use of that as well. And that's a very strong thing that you can do too. So let's go through the items real quick. Again, Jaster's Diamond's pretty much going to be your number one thing. Even the Heroic one, if you will never kill Mythic Gallywix. The Jaster's Diamond's probably your number one thing. But then after that, you do have things like Pacemaker, Best in Slots, and House of Cards. And then a little bit further down the line, Eye of Kazan. So, so for me, personally, we'll have One-Arm Bandit down soon in my guild. So, if I don't get the loot from the boss dropping it, I will probably use my first one on the Best in Slots, take like a 20k DPS upgrade by doing so. And then, you know, we probably still won't have Mythic Galley down by the time that comes. So then on my second one, I'll probably do a Mythic House of Cards to replace my Heroic House of Cards. And then I'll just save my final one for whenever we get Galley down. And then I will take the Mythic Jaster's Diamond. And then that'll be kind of like the way I'm going to go about doing it. I'm already at 674 item level. You know, I don't really need very many things from raid in general at this point, right? So that's kind of where I'm at on it. And that's kind of what you should be thinking of. If you have all these things already, well then, you know, you are set. You can use them on whatever you want. Right? If you already have these things, then you don't really need anything else. Just use them on whatever you want. Honestly, just whatever you need, whatever you have is your lowest item level, whatever's gonna power you up the most, use it on that. But yeah, that's kind of how this is gonna work. Once again, you know, I said at the beginning of the video already, I'm sorry that more of the community isn't going to get to take advantage of these than what previously would, at least to the full potential, like with the myth track level and stuff, like you could in Dragonflight. I'm not against their decision or anything, but maybe that should have been communicated way earlier than what it was. So yeah, I'm sorry that this video won't be helping out as many people as what it previously would have, like in Dragonflight when I did a similar video with the Booyahs. But I still wanted to do it anyways for anybody who is wondering like what you should be targeting with your Cartel chip. So that'll be it for this one, guys. As always, I do ask you to please subscribe to the channel. If you're already a subscriber, I encourage you to check out the Patreon. And other than that, everybody have a good one.